Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, 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 boom. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Find Your Freedom. And we have an awesome guest today. But before we go into that, we always have something that we want to give, right? It's free. It's downloadable. All you have to do is go to www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. And it's a kit that's going to sit here and actually help you find your freedom. All right. So you want this, it's absolutely free. Go to www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. Now that's over. I got a good friend here, right? And first I want to say that he's the most humble guy, right, that you'll ever meet, and like the young folks say, he could flex on you if he wants to, right? But he just don't, because he's just a humble guy. But man, he's an author, an entrepreneur with a very inspiring story that we're going to get into. All right. He helped businesses grow through digital marketing. And what I love the most, all right, he's self-proclaimed awesome, right? And I love that. Michael Fleischner, what's happening, man? How are you, brother?
Hey guys, so good to see you. So great to be here.
Fantastic. Hey, before we jump into some of your coolness, man, if you could just let the listeners know, give a little bit about your background, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's pretty complicated, but at the same time, it's really simple. I started out as a young buck who wanted to make his stamp on the world in corporate marketing. And, I went to school, college, grad school, jumped into a corporation, and just, man, I was busting my hump and did what I could to have more responsibility, make more money. And one day woke up and realized that I was feeling completely unfulfilled and empty. And luck would have it at the time I was actually in business development. We bought a company from this kid. He was like 20. I paid him $5 million for this business. And I said, holy shit, I need to do that. Is it okay to swear on this thing? Is that all right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Do you?
I was like, oh yeah, have at it. But I was like, oh my God, we just paid this kid $5 million. I want that. And that kind of lit the fire under me to say like, hey, maybe this is something I can do, be an entrepreneur, do something different, step outside my comfort zone. And that really started my career as an entrepreneur. It started with, it was a funny story. I was on a cruise and I was with some friends and like a friend of a friend said, oh, I run these cash checking stores or check cashing stores. And this is back in the day. And I said, tell me more about that, because I didn't know what that was. And he said, yeah, but the problem is not everybody knows where we are. Like, it's all about being in the neighborhood and this, that, and the other thing. And I said, well, I do this thing called digital marketing, and maybe that could help you. He said, if you teach me how to do digital marketing, I would pay you a lot of money. And a light bulb went off like, wow, people would pay me to share what I know. There's something there. So fast forward, I wrote a book. I wrote multiple books. I did online courses, started businesses. I did all of that based on this epiphany that not everybody knows what you think they know. And at the same time, they're willing to pay you for the information and experience that you have. And that was pretty transformative. And that was really what drove my entrepreneurial journey. And, you guys talk all about, finding your freedom. To me, it was doing something I could be passionate about and that would fulfill me. And, the fact that it pays the bills doesn't hurt either.
Wow. Like preach on. So you talk about the feeling unfulfilled. I think when I talk to a lot of investors who are just getting started, that is the common denominator. So I literally was at this conference And I was at the airport, and I just ran into somebody who attended the conference, and we just hung out for an hour, had lunch. It was almost like a lunch day. It was pretty cool, but we really got to know each other in that short amount of time. But this is what I heard. I heard I hear a lot of your story, which is she's killing it in the space that she's in. She was in the corporate world. She got her MBA. She got one job. She was in like the financial world. That was a stepping stone into like her dream job. So she's now in her dream job, and now she's looking to do something else because it's not her dream job, is basically what she discovered. And the underlying theme was she felt unfulfilled. So what would you say for somebody who is scared to get started? Because that is another common thing that I hear is people love the idea, like they romanticize this being an entrepreneur or doing something different, and they're not fulfilled in what they're doing. So how do they kind of get over the hump?
I have wrestled with that myself because I was not, I used to be risk averse, hated risk. I'm kind of like Leo, the late bloomer. I stayed in corporate America probably 12 years too long. And it was because I was afraid, right? I mean, what do you mean? I gotta, if you want to eat, right, you're responsible for the kill. Like, that was not me. So I stayed in a job that was unfulfilling for much too long until I heard about the philosophy of crawl, walk, run. And crawl, walk, run means, hey, if you want to be a marathoner, it all starts with first figuring out how to crawl. And once you master that, then you can start walking. And then once you start walking, you can start running. So it was this idea of incremental improvement. And, I really, one of my businesses, Freelancer Training Academy, we're really focused on helping people start that journey as a freelancer. And the recommendation we make is don't quit your day job. In fact, find something you're passionate about, do it on the side, do it in the evenings, do it on the weekends. I mean, Lenny, I know your story, right? You weren't off buying real estate while you were sitting in your full-time job during the day, right? You had to fit it in. And that's really the recommendation, is that, if you're feeling unfulfilled in your job and there's something you want to pursue, figure out how you can do it part-time, a little bit, once a week. Lenny and I have a mutual friend who talks about 15 minutes a day. Just work on it 15 minutes a day. You don't have to change anything else about your day. But if you can start to crawl and start to do these little activities, it will build momentum. And that momentum ultimately is going to catch up and propel you forward into whatever it is you want to do.
I think that's fantastic. And I'm happy that you shared that. Crawl, walk, run. It's just so simplistic, so understandable. A lot of people can understand that because, we live in this social media world. And in this social media world, all we see is everybody running. We never see anybody when they walking. We never see anybody when they crawling. So we don't know what the journey was to get there. We just see the ending result, right? And it's funny because I just put up a post maybe yesterday or the day before, and my post said, use your W-2 money to buy your real estate. And you're saying the same thing is, hey, stay at your W-2, find something that you're passionate about, crawl, walk, and then run, build that momentum to get you to that point. That's super awesome. So, hey, let me just ask you a couple more, questions. So you mentioned that, you guys purchased the company for $5 million from this kid, right? So, I had to write that down, and, we just can't breeze over that moment. So, tell us a little more about that moment and really, your thought processes and how that really changed your whole mindset.
Well, first, let me tell you the story of how it all happened and went down. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it changed my mindset. So I was doing business, my W-2, I was doing business development for a publishing company. We were looking at acquisitions. We found this guy who was a Harvard graduated. He literally just graduated from Harvard, and he had this business where he did essay editing. So like if you're going to do a college application, there's an essay on that application. And he started this business in his dorm room, basically saying Harvard educated essay editors for your college application.
Wow.
And he grew this business. And this guy was probably the smartest guy I've ever met in my entire life. And your listeners can check him out, Jeff Cook. I'll tell you about him in a minute. But Jeff was an awesome guy, incredibly smart. And after we bought that business from him, I walked into his office. I said, well, what's next for you? I mean, you're like 20 something and you got $5 million in your pocket. He said, oh, I've already started my next business. And I said, well, what is that? And he told me the name of the business. And basically what he did was, this was pre-Facebook. That's how old I am. This was pre-Facebook. He came up with basically the concept of taking the physical high school yearbook and putting it online. Okay. So, I mean, this guy was ahead of his time. He started that business after we bought the one business. He started the next business, and something like 3 years later, he sold it for $100 million. 3 years. Okay. Wait, it gets better. But then fast forward 2 years after that, maybe it was longer. Jeff would have to come on the show to tell the details. That company ran it into the ground. So what did he do? He bought it back. And I think he paid $6 million.
Wow.
Right. Maybe it was 12. I may be wrong. But
yeah,
he sold it for 100. He bought it back for 6, 10, 12, who knows what. And then he evolved that company. They went public. And I think he sold out of that. He's probably worth $500 million today.
Incredible.
So, yeah, incredible, right? Incredible story. And you say, well, what can you learn from it? And Lenny, it goes back to exactly what you were saying. Even this guy, who's literally the smartest dude I have ever met, it didn't happen overnight. Yes, it was accelerated for him. Sure, I get it. But he's the best of the best of the best that I know. And even with him, it took years to evolve those businesses. So, you know, whether you're in digital marketing or real estate or whatever, stuff takes time. And I think your point, Lenny, was spot on, right? When you're scrolling through Insta and your Reels and Facebook and TikTok, all you see are the people, you know, driving the Porsches and Ferraris and all that other great stuff, living in these mansions. And if it's real, because, hey, everybody listening, not all of it's real, by the way.
Okay. What?
But if it is real, it did not happen overnight. And if it did, it is the 1/10 of 1% of 1% of 1%. And truthfully, guys, you don't want it to happen overnight, because if it ramps up that quickly, guess what? It can fall that quickly. So, right. So always keep that in mind. Slow and steady wins the race.
So you talk about that you were the late bloomer, and then you were you ran into this $5 million story. So what kind of accelerated your risk tolerance for being an entrepreneur, and you know, how did things get moving?
Yeah, really great question. And actually, this story, Lenny, you'll be familiar with this. I'm sure I've told you this story, but I've got this buddy, Greg, who internet marketing guy, really was like one of the first dudes to ever teach other people how to make money with Google AdWords. And today it's called Google Ads. So again, tells you how long ago this was. But he's a friend, a mentor. And one day we were talking and he said to me, how much money have you made online? And at the time I had a book, right? And maybe some eBooks. So I really wasn't doing a lot of stuff online, but I was kind of embarrassed because maybe I made $1,000, maybe. So I said, a couple $1,000, you know, kind of all confident and stuff. And he was like, and I could sense this hesitation in his voice. And he said, why don't you think you've made more money online? And I said, well, you know, I don't have a list, don't have a lot of products. And then I paused and there was this really uncomfortable silence on the phone. And he says in his sage wisdom, the only reason you haven't made more money online is because you don't think you can.
Wow.
Mic drop moment. literally changed my life, which is crazy, right? Like a person who you know and respect says one thing and it changes your life. So fast forward, we ended up partnering on a couple of programs together. We launched a program called SEO the Easy Way. My background is in search engine optimization. And in the first night that we launched that product, we made $24,000.
Wow.
And today, that might not seem like a lot of money, right? I mean,
It's a lot of money today.
Yeah.
okay, all right. Well, regardless, Lenny, right? It changed the mindset from, oh, I've sold $1,000 of stuff over my life online. And here in one night, we did $24,000 in sales. And you realize like, oh my God, like there's something here, right? There's an it to this it. And, ever since then, it changed my mindset. It changed my belief. And it really enforced the importance of the mental game, which is you got to surround yourself around successful people. You have to go to trainings. You have to invest in yourself, right? Doesn't LeBron spend millions of dollars on his body every year? Right now, he has millions of dollars, right? But even if you don't have $1 million, are you spending 100? Are you spending 1,000? What are you doing to develop yourself, to learn new skills? And, it's still true today. I just bought a course for like $1,500 and people are saying, hey, Mike, you run a successful digital agency. Why are you still investing in training? Because I don't know everything and things change and you got to stay on top of it. So that investment, I think, is really important. And it comes down to mindset.
I'm happy you shared that. And it's something I want to mention. And you mentioned Greg told you did not, you're not making more money because you don't think you can. And I believe that resides in all of us to some extent, right? On a lot of people and why they're not allowing their greatness to be seen by others and used by others, I should sit there and say, so they can become great. Now, you mentioned, hey, the breakthrough was to get yourself in these rooms of other successful people, invest into yourself. But if you're there at this moment, right, thinking that I can't do that, like, what would you tell that person what is the next step for them to get into a room, invest in themselves when they already believing that they can't do it?
I would ask them to ask themselves, what would it take? Don't say you can't do something. Anything is possible. What would it take to do it? Does it mean instead of scrolling on TikTok or Instagram for 30 minutes a day, you buy a $99 course or go to YouTube for free and start watching videos? You really have to do whatever you can to get into the mindset of having it now, right? This is like, go back to The Secret and all those mental things. What's the upshot? I'll save everybody 6 or 8 years of trying to figure it out. It's rehearsing in your mind, having it now, being that real estate investor where you can walk in and buy a 4-unit or an 8-unit and not think twice about it. How do you get there? Well, start with the course, start with training yourself, start by finding other people who are in that business, and then buy your first property. Don't go after the 8-plex, don't go after the 24-unit, buy the first property. And you say, well, I can't do that. Find a partner, do it together, learn from someone. So it's all about breaking these things down. Look, I didn't launch a successful digital marketing agency. I started with one client who said, I have a problem. And I said, you know what? I'm not really sure of myself, but I think I can help. Is it okay if I give it a try? And that's where it starts. So, I think when people are doubtful, it's because, and this is going to sound maybe the antithesis of what we're going for, but they're thinking too big. You can think big, you can believe big, but your essence really isn't going to acknowledge it or truly believe it until you have proof points. And those proof points are you yourself making that effort, seeing the result, and building on that result.
So let's talk about the first client. Okay, because I think sometimes it's a proof of concept, sometimes it's did I look into it? So you kind of question it a little bit. So walk me through kind of your thought process around, okay, so you get this, not everybody knows kind of epiphany and that people are willing to pay. And so you get that first client, then where do you go from there? Because then it's, you may second guess yourself or maybe it's you have the confidence and you're ready to go like hard. So kind of walk me through that and how do you overcome maybe some of those thoughts in your head?
Yeah. So for me, my approach was a little different. I learned this from a mentor as well, which is focus with what's on your plate and you'll never go hungry. So that's a very different philosophy. Most people are eating and they're thinking about, okay, where's my next meal coming from? And I took the opposite approach. It's kind of like, let's say you have a dog who you're walking your neighbor's dog, right? And the neighbor's dog breaks from the leash and they go running across the neighborhood. Now, how do you get that dog back? Are you going to chase that dog and every time the dog is close, you run after it? What do you think is going to happen? You will never catch that dog, ever. As opposed to being calm, waiting, here, doggy, doggy, dog. Eventually, the dog is going to come around, right? And I think business, for some, works in a very similar way, which is if you focus with what's on your plate, meaning you do a good job, you create systems, you bring in the right people, you educate yourself, you deliver fair exchange, meaning somebody's paying X, you're going to give them that or something more, you will get more business, right? So I'll use the real estate example. You go to buy your first house and you work your numbers, everything looks good. You're going to work through that process and you're going to make sure everything is buttoned up. And when you get a tenant in that house, you're going to make sure they're the right tenant, they're happy, the house is in great shape. And guess what? Through that experience, it's going to make it a lot easier to buy that next house, right? Because you taught yourself how it's done. And I think, for me, that was really important because to your point, I didn't really know what I was doing. So instead of just chasing the next potential opportunity, I said, this is the opportunity I have. I'm going to wow this client and I'm going to start to build my business and create kind of that framework that really made the difference. And, I think that's ultimately how we scale. And Lenny, I know you talk about this in your programs, right? It's either automate or delegate. And if you don't know how to do that, it's because your business still needs to be worked on. And things are not at a place where you can delegate it, or you need to find that system or solution where you can automate things so they're repeatable. And that's really, to me, the essence of growing a business. It's really not about finding your next client, because if you build it, they will come. Now, to be fair, I do lead gen, we do outreach, we do marketing. I'm not saying you can't do any of that. I'm saying before you do that, you really need to focus with what you have right in front of you.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, man, you said a lot, and we have to unpack a lot here. So we're going to be here for a little bit, it seems like, right? I mean, I like the approach of, hey, you're talking to someone, and because that's a business, right? A business is that someone got a problem, and you say, hey, I can help solve that problem. That means that you actually have a business, right? And you say you start with that. Now, the quote of focus on your plate and never go hungry, right? I'm going to be honest, that's mind blowing to me. I'm stealing that. So I'm not sure who you got that from, Mike. Just let send them a text. Let them know Lenny the boss is going to be licensing that. Send me the bill, whatever the situation is, right? But let's get into your business a little bit, because you start talking about that and you start talking about systems, you start talking about people, right? You start talking about fair exchange, you start talking about automating and delegating. And you ended with saying you should not be looking for another client until those foundational things are there. So can we talk about how do you go about putting in systems? How do you go about automating things and delegating things?
I think a lot of it comes down to understanding the 80-20. Pareto's principle, everybody's kind of familiar with it. 20% of your clients generate 80% of your revenue. You can use that kind of anywhere and everywhere. And I think the same is true operationally. There are certain things that, 20% that makes up 80% of the solutions we deliver for clients. So if I can identify that 20%, and in my business, my agency is a big fin SEO. SEO as in search engine optimization. The majority of our business comes down to three core areas. One is search engine optimization, making sure people show up on the web. Paid search, right? Advertising, Google ads, Facebook ads, that sort of thing. And website development. So we have packages in each of those that we can deliver consistently again and again and again. And all of our systems internally are designed to support the delivery of those solutions. So that's how we've kind of operationalized our business. And we are trying to do more of that and less of, oh, can you write some emails for me? Well, no. In the past, I'd say, sure, if you're going to pay me, I'll take it, right? But you can't scale a business that way. So we're kind of at this growth curve, if you will, where we've kind of maxed out on the first kind of arc of that curve. And to get to the next arc, we need to start saying no and start saying yes to these products and solutions that are still, if not even more valuable to our clients, but internally from an operational standpoint are more efficient to deliver. So that's basically what I mean. And I think the other thing too, is just finding the right people to help you execute. Because a good friend of mine, we were talking the other day, he's in a similar business, and he said, when you work with others, you don't need A work. You need solid B work. And your job is to be okay with Bs, which is hard for me, right? I'm an achiever. I want A pluses on everything. Right. But, businesses, if you're delivering a quality service, it can run on Bs. It's like the reminder. So Michael Gerber wrote a series of book called E-Myth, the E-Myth. And
I love it.
Yeah, he talked about, right, Lenny, we've talked about Gerber, innovation, quantification, orchestration, documentation. This idea that, your business should be like McDonald's, where the business is being run by 16-year-olds that have acne. Because that person comes in and he says, welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order? Are you going to have a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8? And they press a button. And they're $1 billion corporation, right? So we need to think about implementing systems, and that takes work, that takes time, it takes training, it takes expense, but ultimately that's what will allow your business to scale, because you can only take it so far. There are only so many hours in a day.
So I'm a new business. So let's do some hypotheticals. I'm a new business, and you're mentioning SEO, paid search, website development. And I'm saying, oh, I'll YouTube it and I'll kind of figure it out. So what's your response to that as far as like the pros and cons of that?
The challenge we all have is that we are in a digital world, and some businesses need to be everywhere all the time. If you listen to, a lot of the gurus out there, they're going to tell you got to be posting 8 to 12 times a day. They're not wrong. I think a lot of it depends on the business. You have to understand your clients and how they find you. And, I know some people who have very successful businesses. They don't do any social media, right? I've got a friend who's doing FBA on Amazon, probably making well over $1 million a year. He's not on any social channel. Then I have other people that they're doing exactly what you're saying. They're on YouTube, they're on TikTok, and they're making money. I've got a good friend. She runs a business. They do like assessments on interview style to help you be better at an interview. She was selling maybe 60 units a month, and now she's doing 60 a day. Why? Because she's spending 6 hours a day on TikTok, producing videos, editing videos. Now she's got a team doing videos. It worked for her. So my feeling is, if you have it in you, whether you do it yourself or someone who you work with or could hire, try it all. See what works. Throw a lot of stuff up against the wall. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? This is the crawl and maybe the walk part that most people don't see, but it will ultimately lead to a place where you can run. So I think all those things are important, and it's important to always be experimenting to see what will work and what won't. Now, that said, you still have to give it a real effort. You can't do one TikTok video and say, oh, TikTok, forget it, it's stupid, right? So depending on what you're passionate about, going back to where we started the episode, what is it that gets you up in the morning? What makes you happy? And if you're not comfortable in front of the computer, right, it's going to be uncomfortable when you start. So you definitely have to stick with it.
Awesome. So, understanding your target market was the best thing I heard, right? Is, hey, you understand who your target avatar is, and you should cater your business around that, right? Because I also know an individual, good friend of mine, he's doing probably well over $5 million, a year, and he's not on, social media with that business at all. So, let's fast forward the story. So, obviously you're growing up, wanted to rip the corporate world, felt unfulfilled. So, then you went through a journey, and now you opened up your own business. So what is it like now? I guess first question is, how long have you been in business? And the second question is, what is your life like now? Your life, your family life, now that you a business owner and you're eating what you kill.
Well, I didn't make the leap until, and I promised myself that when I'm making the same amount in my side job that I am in my full-time job, I'll leave my full-time job. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't leave before. I didn't have the kahunas to do it. I thought there was too much risk. I was used to getting a paycheck. And then I found myself making $10,000 a month in my day job and $10,000 a month in my side hustle. So I did what most 40-year-olds do, and I bought a Porsche. And I left my full-time job and realized that I just halved my salary. And I was thinking, how am I going to pay for this car? So once I did that, for a little while, I was kind of chasing the money. I was like, well, if I do this, if somebody's willing to pay me for this type of marketing, I'll do this. If they pay me for that, I'll do that. And what I quickly found was that the further outside my swim lane I got, the less fulfilling it was, the more anxiety provoking. I started to get really nervous about, can I sustain it? And instead, I went back to that philosophy of focus what's on your plate. Don't go chasing the next, ad that you see in your Insta feed. Deliver your services, get better at delivering those services, and see what happens. And that's really what I did. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and really happy with the agency. And also, again, kind of started, I'm involved in a few businesses, but the one I'm really excited about is the Freelance Training Academy, because my goal is to teach other freelancers how to start, grow, and scale their freelance business. And it really all starts with knowing what to do and how to do it from someone who's already done it, right? So if somebody wants to learn how to get into real estate or do short-term rentals, right, I'm going to look up those people who are actually doing it, not just talking about it. And those are the people who you want to invest in, who you want to get behind, and who you want to associate with to accelerate your growth. So for me, that's really what it's been about. And now, in many ways, I'm quote unquote living the life. I don't think of it that way. I know Lenny talks about flexing. I'm just grateful. And it's not, for me, it's really no longer about the money or even the effort. It's more about the people who I'm able to meet, connect with, be engaged with, and have real purpose around. To me, that's really what makes it so worthwhile. And I never would have had that in a corporate job. I just wouldn't. It's all politics, and your bosses are less competent than you are, and you're just frustrated and angry all the time. And I haven't raised my voice in probably 20 years. And I think a lot of that is because of this business, right? Of this ability to say, you know what, I'm going to do what I love, and I'm just going to trust that God's going to take me the rest of the way, and that things are going to just happen as they're supposed to happen. And time after time, that's the case. So, again, a lot of people worry like, oh no, what happens if I don't have a W-2? You'll feel free. That's what will happen. Will you starve? You're not going to starve. Besides, you can always go back and get a job. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like that. So the threat or the worry that people are up against really isn't there. There's a famous saying, fear knocked at the door, so I answered, and no one was there. And it's just a very true statement for what we think. Again, we go back to the mental game versus what the reality actually looks like.
All right. So you had the midlife crisis, you got the Porsche, then it's about the money, which I think it's very typical. Like, people are going to maybe chase the money initially because it's you want some level of security. At what point do you then decide, hey, like, I've kind of found my passion, and or now I'm like transitioning where it's something where I want to help other people and kind of spread what I've learned, and how much do you incorporate like the learning? Because it looks like you're still investing in learning. So I guess how do you determine what that point is when you're actually, transition away from like the security of the W-2?
Yeah, it's a good question, Omid. I think that for me, it became less about the money and more about my time, because you realize, and again, I'm a little older than some of your listeners, right? I value time as much, if not more, than money at this point. So when you make the money, you can, I don't know, go on a nice vacation, but unless you're making $10 to $20 million a year, it's not going to change our lifestyles. Yeah, maybe we'll eat out a few more times or go on a nicer vacation, but at the end of the day, you have to value your time. We all have a fixed amount of time on this earth. So now I'm reinvesting the money that I make from the business in people to free up my time. And I think that's the first transition that I'm really making, while at the same time really transitioning to, hey, are there other people that I can help, that I can train, that I can share my knowledge with? Because, the reality is the more you give away, the more you get. There's no reason why I can't tell you the exact tools I use, the software, the vendors I use. There's plenty of space for everybody here, and it's not going to change my business. My clients are my clients. You're not going to steal my clients. They love me. So, and even if you did, there are other clients out there, right, who would replace them. So my whole point is, I think that you just, in life, as you have more experience, you realize that time is more valuable than money. At this stage, again, in the beginning, I didn't care about my time. I'd work 18-hour days. I didn't care. But now time is definitely worth more than the money. And you want to take what you learned and not, at least most people, I'll speak for myself, I don't want to leave that on the table. I want to just kind of spread the wealth and share it as much as I can. So that's kind of the evolution. And I think when you're at each of those stages, right? If you're only making $2,200 a month and you can't pay your rent or your high-speed internet, focus on that. Get that taken care of. And then when you have that taken care of, then you can kind of focus on the next stage.
I think that make all the sense in the world. And I love it, that you're saying, hey, at this stage, I'm focusing more on, my time versus money. So I guess tell us, man, because I know that you are a fantastic husband, father, right? Like, tell us now you're getting some of your time back. Like, let us know. Like, let us know some of the things that you are doing with this time, man.
Oh, God. Well, I'm definitely enjoying myself. We just got back from a trip to Rome. We were in Rome and Florence, Italy, and I had never been there before, which was really cool. I've got a trip coming up to Chicago. I run a council. It's basically a board for the American Marketing Association. We do a big event out there every year. So cool. So that's great. I'm very involved in the marketing community. It's a great time. I'm looking forward to it. Some really great friends out there. And then my next big trip is to Iceland. I'm going backpacking with my son, who's now 21 years old. He's this big, brawny, fun guy. So we're going to go out. We're going to ride ATVs and hike and do all these incredible things. And again, I'm blessed because I've got a beautiful family. I've got some really great friends. And, if I wasn't happy doing what I was doing, I think my life would be very different. So I was glad that I made the leap when I did. And I'm sure you guys hear this from other guests. I only wish I did it sooner. But again, I didn't really have the confidence in myself to do that. And that's why I think this mindset and this mental game is so important. Because if I could go back and tell my 17-year-old self, hey, look in the mirror every day, give yourself a high five, and tell yourself how amazing and competent you are, I think that would have changed really my trajectory, and maybe some of these things would have happened sooner. But I'm not a complainer, so I'm glad they happened when they did.
I mean, that's very inspiring. You hear about you're speaking on my love languages, like traveling and like quality time, and I think that's pretty amazing. And we definitely have to have you back on to kind of keep the conversation going. I feel like you shared so many valuable nuggets with the audience. So I guess for our audience, what does find your freedom mean to you?
Fulfillment. That's what it comes down to. Fulfillment. So if you're happy working at Starbucks and it fulfills you and makes you feel good, do that. If it's teaching a kindergarten class, then be a teacher. If it's investing in real estate, go invest in real estate. Whatever it is that is really going to make you happy, if you focus on it, it will take care of everything else. And I know I'm oversimplifying for your audience, but that's what 52 years in this world has taught me, that you really don't have to worry at all. You just have to be present. You have to find something that energizes you and fulfills you. And that's it, period, full stop, end of discussion. There's no need to be anxious or worried or anything else. It's all taken care of for you. So that's what it means to me. It really means fulfillment, because when you're fulfilled, you're free. And when you're free, you're fulfilled. So it's this endless cycle that I hope everyone can find.
I really, really, really love that. So, Mike, if people want to find you, man, where they find you at?
Google me. Just Google me. You'll find me. But you guys can reach out to me personally, mfleischner@gmail.com. So that's mfleischner@gmail.com. A lot of people say, why do you give out your personal email address? Well, because it's my personal email address. And that's how you communicate, right? So don't be sending me DMs through Insta. I don't do all that stuff. That's crazy. That's for you guys to do. But I encourage everybody to check out bigfinseo.com. You could definitely check out, for those who are interested in freelancing, freelancetrainingacademy.com. We're working on some pretty amazing things, and I invite all of you to be part of it.
Hold on. Why do you give out your personal email address? You gotta answer that one more time because
Okay.
it's my email.
That's right. It's my email address. How else are you going to get in touch with me? And you guys know as well as I do, how many people, right, are actually gonna make the effort to reach out to somebody.
So true.
I'm gonna take this a step further.
Okay.
And I'm on. I was at a 3-day event. I host a 3-day event every quarter, and it probably was, I don't know, well over 1,500 people that virtually that was on this event. And it was a lady. We do this gratitude moment, and this lady came on and had some issues, and the guy who was running the event said, "I want to help you. Here's my telephone number." Boom, 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 boom. And I'm looking like, oh my God, saying to myself, and now I don't remember the whole number because we don't memorize numbers these days, right? But I know what it start with. I'm like, he really gave this person his number. Oh, and so I asked him behind the scenes. He said, "Nobody's gonna call me." He said, "I've been doing that for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Nobody ever calls." And I just was like, wow. It kind of goes to your point of, yeah, look, this is how you get in contact with me. And, some people utilize it, some people don't. So I found that to be interesting. All right, Mike. So we do this big thing at the end of the show, right? Where we want to do a boom session, right? And the objective of the boom session is to bust some speakers and to, hurt some eardrums for those that's listening, right? So how we do it is, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and in a uniform manner, right after the 3, all 3 of us going to say boom as loud as we can. That make sense?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So for the listeners, Mike is over there practicing, right? I mean, for people who can't watch this, he's over there practicing to make sure he gets this right. All right, cool. So y'all ready? All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Check this out, man. We just had a fantastic episode, which you do not want to miss. 2 big things about life. You want to be present and you want to be fulfilled, because fulfillment equals freedom. All right. So this is an episode with our guy, Mike, where you don't want to miss all these golden nuggets on his journey, his story, and how he can inspire and motivate you to sit there and be fulfilled. Now, we also going to help you out and give you a free downloadable that's going to help you find your freedom. Easily, it's free. Go to www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. Once again, www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. Now, for us to bring cool episodes like this one, we need a little bit of help. We need you to listen to this episode and leave us an honest 5-star review. We also need you to share. We need you to share this with your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your mother, your brother, your sister. Hey, just take the link, email it to everybody in your contact, share with the people at work that you like and the people that you don't like as well. Until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.